Yesterday, House Republicans showed their true colors once again. Instead of joining Democrats to release the Epstein files, they decided to pack everything up and hightail it out of DC until September 2nd. They're only doing this because Trump is calling the shots. Despite the American people overwhelmingly calling for greater transparency and their own supporters demanding the release of the Epstein files, Republicans in Congress would rather start their summer vacations early than do their jobs. It's just the latest example of how Republican representatives don't work for us. They work for Donald Trump and Donald Trump only. And by the way, when will he release the Epstein files? I'm Hannah Moldavan, Deputy Communications Director for the Democrats, and your host for today. It's Wednesday, July 23rd, and this is the Democrats' Daily Blueprint. From the halls of Congress to the Texas state capitol, Trump is putting the screws on Republicans and bending them to his will. Viewers will remember that last Friday on the Daily Blueprint, we addressed how Greg Abbott, the Republican governor of Texas, is plowing ahead with a blatant scheme to gerrymander his state's legislative map. Abbott knows that the redistricting plan will come back to bite Texas Republicans. In fact, according to an article published by the Texas Tribune, he didn't even want to do it in the first place. But after talking to Donald Trump, he caved. Just look at what Trump and Republicans are trying to get away with. It's really crazy. The map that slices and dices communities in order to draw Democrats out of their seats. Governor Abbott isn't focused on addressing the devastating floods in Central Texas. He's not focused on the needs of Texans who are going to lose their healthcare and food assistance because of the Republican budget bill that they passed in Washington. He's only focused on pleasing Donald Trump. That's not leadership, Governor. It's cowardice. And Texans deserve better, which is why Democrats are calling out this partisan scheme for what it is. Here's the Democratic leader at the Texas House of Representatives, Gene Wu.
This is just a ruse that Governor Abbott is using this tragedy, using the deaths of hundreds of Texans as the doorway to get what he wants politically. And our fear, the fear of our caucus and our members and our communities, is that the legislation and the money that is actually needed to help Texans and to prevent future disasters and to save lives will be buried.
It's shameful. On Monday, Texas Republicans began their special legislative session. Did they vote on measures to support victims of the devastating floods? No. Republicans were instead largely focused on gerrymandering the map. So to help us unpack what this means, we have Texas Representative Donna Howard, who represents District 48 in the Texas House and has served in the state legislature since 2006. Representative Howard, welcome to the Daily Blueprint.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us, what is going on the ground in Texas?
Well, first and foremost, I think Democrats are focused on working for Texans. And that means we are here to do whatever we need to do to help with the victims of the floods, the devastation that has occurred in our state. That should be first and foremost what we're focused on. Doing the work to get those people the recovery and relief efforts they need. We've been out there and seen it is horrific what's going on. We have the ability, now that we're here, to do some things. That should be the very first thing on our agenda. But unfortunately, we have seen that there are many other items that have been added to the list, including redistricting, which I know we're going to get into. But it is just shameful that we are not doing everything we could every single day to help people recover from these devastating floods.
And our thoughts are with you and every Texas family and your communities as these horrible floods. You're still dealing with it. I mean, you mentioned you're in a special legislative session. This could be a time, and it is a time when Democrats in Texas want to help address the repercussions of these floods. But why did Governor Abbott call this special session? What's going on there?
Well, we can back up to when he first announced he was calling a special session. Really what he focused on then was his veto of THC use and the banning of THC. He added some other red meat issues that we did not pass in the regular session. They were not they were not supported by in a bipartisan way to get through the legislature. So he's going to cram them down with a special session. And it was always a talk that he was being led toward doing redistricting by Trump, and yet hadn't done that yet until the floods happened. And then the floods gave him cover to bring us back so-called legitimately so that he could actually then put redistricting on the call and force Democrats who want to be here to support our constituents to do what needs to be done to provide relief. He's using that as a hostage, basically, to get Democrats to show up and to take care of all the red meat issues that he's put on this agenda. But really, the primary thing is because he bent the knee to Trump, and he wants us to do mid-decade redistricting, which is absolutely nothing more than virtually stuffing the ballot box and making sure that Trump gets his way, because otherwise he would lose in the midterm elections. He is tanking. People, even independents, are turning against him. Those that bought his bill of goods now want their money back because he is cramming things down our throats that are hurting everyday Texans at the grocery store, that are hurting us at businesses. It is just egregious that this would be forced upon us by Trump, who's only looking out for himself, not for Texans, when we have major issues to take care of with the flood relief. That's where we should be focused on. That's what Texans want us to do, and that's what Democrats are going to be focused on.
I love that your priorities are clearly so right. I mean, you mentioned the budget bill that Trump Republicans passed. Prices are high. We're all feeling it. And we looked at a picture of the proposed districts earlier in the program. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense. But what I love to hear from you is that Dems are going on offense. Dems are ready to fight back in Texas. Can you tell us a little bit about the ways that you're doing this?
Yeah, well, obviously, we're going to do everything we can as the minority party. Math is the math. We do not have the numbers to outright defeat this. We are rallying the troops. We are talking to our communities and constituencies to make sure that they understand how devastating this will be, because not only will it happen here in Texas, but they're using us as a test case and will take this nationwide to really shore up the Republicans in Congress and continue to pass Trump's very horrific policies. So we're rallying the troops, as I said. We are doing everything we can think of in terms of delaying the process here. And that includes considering doing a quorum break, which is something we will do if we have to. We know that we still don't have the numbers when we come back, but the more we can delay, the more maybe we can make some changes happen, the more we can convince our Republicans that this is a bad policy for Texas. Please do not do this. Have our constituents call their representatives and say, we do not want this. Not just Democrats, but independents and Republicans contacting their representatives say, this is bad for Texas. We should not be doing this. So we're going to keep every tool that we can on the table, and we are going to do whatever we can, but we are going to fight. We're going to take this to the floor if we need to and debate, and we are going to build a record that we can take to court. We are going to do everything within our power.
Representative Howard, thank you so much for coming on. The National Democratic Party will be here to support you and your fellow Texas Democrats and independents, as you mentioned, who don't want this, and a lot of Republicans who don't want this either.
Right.
And thank you for your service also in the Texas legislature since 2006. That is a great way to serve Texans, our country, and we appreciate your public service.
It's an honor and a privilege to do this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So here's the bottom line. The DNC is fighting this redistricting scheme with everything we've got, along with Texas Democrats. Last Friday, DNC Chair Ken Martin was in Houston, meeting and strategizing with Democratic leaders in the state legislature. And as Republicans continue to hijack the legislative session to rig the electoral map, we're mobilizing public pressure to force them to abandon their desperate plot once and for all. So you might be asking, why focus on Texas's electoral map? Why does all of this matter? Because free and fair elections are a bedrock of our democracy. As Democrats, we believe in bringing down barriers to vote and making sure every American's voice is heard. Republicans, on the other hand, have abandoned their oaths to the American people by voting to cut their health care, cut their food assistance, and make life unaffordable. Which is why today we're urging everyone all over the country to check their voter registration, especially if you or someone you know is in a red state where Republicans are trying to purge voter rolls or redraw the map. Go to iwillvote.com to check the status of your registration. Together, we can hold this administration accountable and turn the tide against Trump's undemocratic attempts to rig the rules of the game. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Daily Blueprint, and thank you to Representative Donna Howard. We'll be here right with you every day at 10 a.m. Eastern on the DNC's YouTube page. Until tomorrow.